there's a lot to it that we're still discovering, but we're making blanket statements constantly about what works for everyone.
Right. And that's the key point there. Blanket statements about what works for everyone, which there's no such thing as what works for everyone. There's going to be variation, even if it's down to just dose response.
Bringing you a reasoned approach to health and fitness. This is the Phi Life Podcast.
Welcome to the Phi Life Podcast. I'm John Barban. With me is Brad Pilon. And today we're going to talk about how much we don't know about the human body,
which is a lot.
Physiology. Yeah. So this came up. Brad sent me an interesting paper, and we'll talk about it, that suggests they've finally determined the brain can actually burn fat as a fuel source.
Which doesn't sound like a big deal, but is a huge deal just in terms of nutrition dogma. Like, you've probably heard, but the brain can only use glucose as a fuel. And we've said that for 50 years. And we're probably going to say that for 50 more because, again, we don't know enough about physiology. So things just get stamped in as a fact, and then turns out it's not a fact.
Yeah, I remember when I took physiology in undergrad, our professor, who was the dean of our department, said half of that stuff wasn't valid when he was in his undergrad.
Wow.
And the stuff he taught us, or the stuff that he was taught in his undergrad, was later understood and a lot of it undone by the time he was teaching us. And then he also said, and some of this stuff, we're just working off what we know. It'll turn out that some of this stuff isn't totally accurate either.
Yeah.
I didn't know what he meant at the time, but now I do. Now I understand. He was just like, oh, we don't actually know that much. This is just the best we can do so far.
Yeah. Everyone listening has heard the whole, like, butter was good for you, and then it wasn't, and margarine was good for you, and now it's not, and butter is good for you again. That's not just people being difficult. It's literally the science changing or unproving previous science, or people going over previous science and being like, oh, you did your stats wrong, dudes. This is not right. So It is a unbelievably young science, both physiology and nutrition, so the human body. And it's not, I'm going to say this and people are going to get mad, it's not a real science like engineering or something like that, where it's like, this is the exact equation that determines the exact amount of weight that bridge can hold. And that's down to, like, that's accurate into the gram. Whereas we're just still learning, and we really want to know what we're talking about. So we take little facts and we broaden them out as much as we can. And that's been a mistake with a science that kind of, in compared to other sciences, is still in its infancy because the subject matter, which is people, are so bloody difficult to study.
Well, yeah, for the human body is a black box that we're trying to reverse engineer. That's all we're doing. So,
yeah.
And, you do a classic study is where you take a gene and you knock it out of a mouse and see what happens. And then you can determine with some validity, oh, that gene must do this, because when we take that gene away, whatever effect you're looking for is not there anymore. And then you test to see if something similar happens in people. And that's how they develop drugs. But we don't know what every gene does. We're still discovering hormones. Like anatomically, we're still discovering ligaments and tendons that we weren't sure were ever there. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's partly because the resolution of them isn't obvious, that it's its own separate thing. So
resolution being in the scanning.
Yeah, or even in anatomical dissections. Not like, for instance, this oh God, that tendon there. I don't know what I can't remember.
But not everybody has that one. Right?
Palmaris longus. Not everyone has. Some of the people don't have it, or they have two, and some people have one. So that's a simple one. But there's others. There's other.
Oh, sternalis. There is a muscle in some people that runs this way.
Yeah,
a very small muscle, and it comes out in people who like strain from benching. Actually, both me and Greg Gallagher think we might have a sternal like that muscle, and it's one that like guys who are just abnormally strong for the size and bench. I don't know what it's a stabilizer, but it also when it pulls, it's like we get a pull here from benching. We're like, oh, I've pulled something. And people are like, there's nothing there to pull. We're both like, no, there's something pulled there. So sternalis, the one here. You said there's one in the knee as well?
Well, there's a ligament that it was always understood when an ACL tears that it's just straight up, that's it, the ACL tore. But then they couldn't figure out why some people get some injuries tear the ACL and some don't. of the same mechanism of injury. Like, why did it not tear? And it turns out the ones that tear, this other ligament that they didn't really know was there, it tears with it, and that's when you know it's like a full tear.
Oh,
And
okay.
that ligament was hard to decipher from the other structures around. Like, ligaments in the knee are tiny, and when you're in there, it might not be obvious that this structure is for sure another ligament and not just part of a tendon or sort of hidden within the belly of a muscle in that area or some of the cartilage. So even though we've dissected human bodies and we can map out anatomy, we're still finding things. Like, apparently not that long ago, a new tendon was found in the insertion of glute, like right where the hamstring and glute meet.
Oh yeah.
There's another tendinous area there that's since been defined as its own tendon that wasn't part of any anatomy we knew about. And maybe not everyone has it so clearly developed, but it wasn't a tendon that like we would have learned in anatomy. But now
Right.
it's since been identified. No, this is definitely its own thing. And some people have this exact tendon that not everyone has, just the same as the thing in the wrist and a few other things. So we don't even have anatomy pinned down yet, let alone physiology, and then nutrition.
Nutrition.
The thing is, how can you even know that much about nutrition when you don't even know the system, meaning the human body? We don't even know how it works. So how will we know how nutrition affects it? We can know certain things, but there's still a lot we don't know.
Right. And be like asking, what's the right gas mix for this car? And you're like, what's the engine? I'm like, I don't
know. We're not allowed to open the hood.
Yeah, definitely one in there. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So is it diesel? Is it regular gas? Is the thing electric? Is it a hybrid? Imagine not knowing that, but trying to fuel the car. You where do you even start? So it's I think safe to say there's much more about the body we don't know than we do know.
Yeah. Well, there's a meme Instagram post I just saw, and it was Marcus Rule. And for you guys who are too young to know who Marcus Rule is, look him up. RUHL. Just a massive behemoth bodybuilder. Like he was one of the first like mass monsters, right? And it was him and Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
And they're both at 28, and they're just like they're different species, right? Like they are different subclasses of human. And you take all the drugs out of Marcus Rule's life, it doesn't matter. He's still structurally a different thing than Timothy is.
Yep.
And I think until we sort of start digging into that and what is actually going on there, I mean, I would doubt that the dietary needs of Marcus and Timothy are the same. The training, what they can do, it's just they're different. They're radical. Not just like everybody's different. These guys are radically different, right? And you see that a lot just walking a mall, right? You're like, there's no way that person can ever look like that person, and vice versa, right? So there's so much variance that way that then, and now we're saying, oh yeah, and there's also some tendons that some people have, and ligaments some people have, and even muscles that there's a lot to it that we're still discovering, but we're making blanket statements constantly about what works for everyone.
Right. And that's the key point there. Blanket statements about what works for everyone, which there's no such thing as what works for everyone. There's going to be variation, even if it's down to just dose response. Yeah. Some people can handle a higher or lower dose of a given drug, and we're not exactly sure why. Like, you metabolize it a bit faster. We don't know all of the physiological pathways that apply to everything that you ingest, from food to for anything you would drink, and then all the different drugs that you might encounter in your life.
Yeah. I don't know if this is true, but I did read it that like redheads have a blunted response to painkillers like ibuprofen and acetaminophen compared to other people. I don't know if that's we'll have to when we get big, we'll talk to our fact checker and he'll check it live, but until then we'll have to look at it later. But there are factors like that going on in times like this. So like, you just have these genetic predispositions to your point, being more or less of a responder to drugs.
Yeah, so, and things we know that your response to a drug can change based on the food you've been eating at the time, or the food that's been in your system at the same time as the drug. So that and there's a genetic component to that. So the three things put together, food, drug, genetics, can change if something is toxic or not toxic to you.
Oh wow!
So somebody
grapefruit, and was it grapefruit? one of those things ends naringin and something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing where a particular food is fine for certain people, and then in the presence of a certain drug, that food becomes toxic, but not to everybody.
Right.
And that's the
right.
drug gene food interaction. So when you look at it that way, we'd have to redo everything about nutrition and add in the genes, and then also add in any pharmaceutical, and then subdivide people.
Right.
So,
Also, on that point, right? If some people are more or less responsive to drugs, and we know some people are more or less responsive to supplements like creatine, then it goes to figure that some people are more or less responsible to dietary interventions. Like some people just respond differently, and that's like it's so obvious when you look at how different people react to different diets, but no one wants to talk about it, right? It's like, so yeah, some people just respond differently to different diets, exercise programs, right? Same thing.
Oh yeah. I think it's intellectually it's easy, or it's less stressful to imagine there's one answer.
Yes,
but that's not actually the truth. So you'll find that out along the way when you encounter something and somebody else can handle it and you can't. Like for instance, the ketogenic diet, everyone's response to that's different. There's a theory as to what it should do.
Yes,
but not everyone responds the same.
Yeah, the one answer and the pessimist, this won't work answer are such intellectual cop-outs. Mm-hmm. Right? Like there's such easy ways to just sort of like, no, the answer is exactly 50 grams of protein. And well, I've heard differently. Well, that's because that's stupid. It'll never work. Like it's this false intellectualism that drives me nuts. And that's a great example of that, because there is so much evidence of individual responses that it's ridiculous not to at least entertain that idea.
Yeah. So I guess where are we going with this? It's the idea that just because you've heard a study said this or a study said that, A, we don't even know the quality of the study in the first place. And B, you don't know if that really applies to you. Like the people in the study may not represent you at all. So, I mean, you'd have to take everything with some degree of skepticism if you're going to overhaul your diet or your exercise routine or any major intervention into your life without having really strong evidence to suggest it's really worth your effort.
Yeah.
And it's maybe that's disheartening because you might want to do something and you want something to work, but it's not obvious that everything you hear that works for somebody will also work for you.
Yeah. And you really do have to try things out, but again, accept the fact that since there are different responders, what's working for someone else, if it doesn't work for you, you might not be doing anything wrong. It just might not work for you the same.
Mm.
Yeah. So, but I think that accepting and accepting that that the science is incredibly new and incredibly fickle when it comes to physiology, which in nutrition and exercise, and that it's weird because you have this irony where a brand new study doesn't debunk decades of research, but at the same time, it could completely debunk decades of research, right? So just because something is new sounds like it's completely changing everything, it might, but it might not, which is very confusing. But the other thing is it opens up this whole idea of these individual responses, which then mean you kind of have to do right back to you kind of have to do what works for you. Right. Yep. So
we're in the dark here because we haven't figured out a cost-effective way for everyone to know their genome and then to know exactly what every gene does.
Or combined means, right? Like it might not just be one.
Even if you can map your entire genome, we still don't know exactly what all those different genes do.
Yeah.
And once at some point in the future, if we can figure that out, they're going to look back and say, and just be, man, you guys all took the same drug at the same dose, and realize that some people should not touch that drug at all. Some people need 10 times the dose. Some people need 10 times less the dose. And some people need the other drug in that same class, not that one. And that's all stuff we're going to find out as we learn more and more about genetics. Ultimately, that's where we're heading, is once we know our individual genetics, and then we can start tailoring how the food, any pharmaceuticals and the workout to your specific genetics. That's when you'll get maximum sort of results.
Yeah.
But for now, you got to kind of fumble your way into it without really knowing, without being able to test it, and without really knowing, oh, I know exactly based on my genetics what I should eat, how what drugs will and won't work for me and what workout will maximize my efforts. We don't know that. You got to trial and error your way into that.
Yeah. And then just being honest with like, that didn't work for me. Something that worked for all of your friends, that you like, that exercise just doesn't work for me. Right. Like, and it's kind of obvious when you go to a gym with all the different machines, and there are some machines just fit your body. Yeah. And other people are like, I can't make this one work. So if you think of it that way, it's obvious. Yeah. But so to wrap it all up is that, that it is a young, fickle science, and that the individual responses, the variation is very large for most things, exercise and nutrition. And if, again, getting back to my Marcus Rule and Timothy Chalamet, if both of them came to me and they wanted, I don't know, get faster sprinting, they would be different workouts. Yeah. Right. Like, or both of them wanted to do anything, you would be a very different approach. And so the cookie cutter concept of it just doesn't really fly. So you're going to have to always take everything you read in that area as something to consider for you, maybe try for you. But if it doesn't work, it's not because you did it wrong, it just doesn't work for you. Yeah.
And I guess the final point I'll say is many things you try will have some effect, but it's the work for you or not isn't an all or nothing. It might be just a very, very weak effect versus something that feels, I don't want to keep saying effect, seems more impactful.
Yes.
Versus the effort put into it. So you can grind away at an exercise, or you can an exercise routine, or you can eat a certain way where you're like, well, it says so, and I feel like something's happening. Yeah. But if it's like that, if it feels like that, it's not going to be an all or nothing thing. It could be that's a lot of effort for very little result. And that even that is telling you like, this is probably not worth pushing it. If this is too much effort, or you perceive it to be way too much effort for the result, the little result you're getting, yet somebody else gets a huge result off of it. That's I would still call that not working. Like not efficiently. Yeah. And it's worth hunting around for a solution that isn't just that there's so much effort for so little reward. It's worth spending the time to try to find something where the effort matches the reward.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's a good spot.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyways, So whatever you see it, you just still have to test it on yourself, and it may or may not be the one for you.
Yeah.
All right. So for Brad Pilon, I'm John Barban, and that's your Phi Life Podcast.